Good afternoon, everybody. This is another HM1 in 2021. I am still Ryan. Today we're going to be going over Opnav instruction 5100.19 Foxtrot. I don't know about you guys, but I am really excited to be done with this instruction. I've read this reference multiple times. I did my videos, and this is the last one of the series until I can hopefully study something else. The Occupational Health Program Manual for Forces Afloat. This instruction in general is really hard for me because I've never been afloat, so a lot of these words I had to Google, research. This is a rough video series for me, but hopefully it helps out in a few months. So today we're going to be going over Alpha 4, which is hazard control, reporting, and abatement. There's not a lot of stuff in this instruction, this will probably be another 10-15 minute video. There's a couple timelines in here, but in general, I think the big thing it goes over is like some timelines, one form, rack codes, and that's really it. Let's pull it up. That's A3. And here we go. So section A, chapter 4, hazard control, reporting, and abatement. So 3 methods of controlling hazards. First is to prevent the hazard at design and acquisition stage. That makes sense. So if you're making the blueprints for something, let's make sure it's not jacked up before we make it. Second is to identify and eliminate existing hazards. So what issues do we have and what can we do about them? And the third one is to reduce likelihood and severity of mishaps from hazards that can't be eliminated. So our third one is all about like risk mitigation. So first one is don't make something broken. Second one, identify and eliminate hazards that already exist. And the third one is how can we minimize risk? Let's see. Yep, hazard prevention stuff. Nothing really big there. Types of maintenance, that goes over just, planned maintenance, operating procedures, ORM. Important stuff to know. Purchasing procedures. Didn't really see anything that I could see as test questions over here. Let's see. So here's the principles of hazard control. Substitution. So when I think of substitution, I really think of like the Lean Six Sigma stuff. Streamlining your processes. Look for processes that are jacked up and how can we fix it. So basically, how can we reduce the risk of injury or illness by like replacing the existing process, material, or equipment with a similar one that's not as hazardous. So that one to me seems pretty obvious. So substitute the jacked up thing with something that's slightly less jacked up. Engineering control. So I think kind of says in the name. Accomplished primarily through design and advanced planning. Types of engineering controls are isolation. So isolate the hazard from personnel. Ventilation. Here's one, because again, remember I said some of my other videos, if anything says most common, most typically seen, number 1, local exhaust ventilation is the preferred and more economical method of hazard control. Let's see, admin control. So again, like at our 3 types of controls, so we got substitution, engineering, administrative. So administration is basically like, what are you telling your peoples to do? That's where the SOPs come in handy. Adjust the work schedules, work practice controls. Oh, actually I was wrong. There are 4 different types. The 4th one is PPE. So PPE is like the last line of defense. It even says it using that verbiage in the instruction. So yeah, PPE is cool, but it's kind of like the last line of defense. So like for example, if we got a piece of machinery shooting fireballs at you, having a mask would be great, but you're still getting fireballs shot at you. So if there's anything wrong with the mask, you're going to take a fireball to your face. So PPE is good, it's great, but it's not like the number one. I like to think about that as kind of like where we're at now, like wearing the masks in the COVID scenario. So yeah, the mask is kind of the last thing. So like if I'm wearing my mask and I'm like still turning up at the club with my mask on, even if it's an N95, if I'm being around like 100,000 people a day, that mask probably isn't going to help me too much. But the engineering controls, so that's, or the substitution, so I'm going in an area where there's less people. Engineering control, let's say I make sure I'm in a venue where the open, not a lot of people. Admin control, the military saying, hey man, if we catch you at a party, you're going to lose your rank. Then I'll be worrying about making HM2 in 2022. And that's not going to happen though. And PPE, so wear a mask. Hazard reporting, this was a whole other one of the chapters, so it's not super in-depth in here. Here's how a crew member can report. All hands are encouraged to orally report to their supervisor. This is one of the other chapters in the instruction. Here we go. We got an Opnav form 3120/5 safety hazard reports. To me, that one's kind of weird because a lot of the forms tend to be the same as the instruction number. So this one is not. So Opnav instruction 3120/5 is safety hazard reports. Maybe there's a 3000 series instructor that's all about safety stuff. I got to review my SSIC codes. I haven't done that yet. I think for me, I know the obvious ones, 5 and 6000, but I'll make a video later that goes over all of them. Let's see. So yeah, individuals can report it on a form if they don't do it orally. Safety officer evaluates all reports and assigns that risk assessment code to the hazard. Risk assessment code of 1. So 1 is like the OSNAP of risk assessment codes. So 1 is the worst, 5 not so bad. So risk assessment code of 1 happens immediately. 2 or 3 happens within 3 days. The safety officer will provide a response to the originator within 10 working days of the receipt. So the safety officer has to respond to whoever kind of raised that flag saying, hey, something's unsafe. So safety officer's got 10 working days. And similar to, again, one of the other chapters we reviewed for this series, you have the right to appeal to the CO. If the safety officer is, nah, man, it's safe, I have the right to be able to, like, no, I want to tell the CO, I think this is really, really dangerous for our people. And that happens, I think that's also within 10 days. Yeah, within 10 days. So to me, that's kind of easy timelines. So remember, safety officers got to respond within 10 working days. And then the CO's got to respond with an appeal within another 10 working days if you want to. And then ships can also establish their own reporting procedures if they want to. So moving on to hazard abatement. Let's pull my... Let's see, there was a note here that I thought was important. Where'd that go? So if there is like an immediate danger thing jacked up, all work stops. And the senior person says, nope, we're closing out. Unless there's an operational emergency. So if we got bombs coming at us, maybe the machinery we're working on is probably higher priority because we have our operational tempo. But the CO needs to be notified immediately. Then imminent danger is known as loss of life, bodily injury, or illness to personnel. So kind of like the pandemic. Let's see. Safety officer maintains documentation of the safety hazards. Let's see. Hazard reports are submitted in something called WESS, W-E-S-S. Didn't see that in the other chapters. So something to remember. Hazard reports are submitted into the WESS, W-E-S-S. Here we got our risk assessment codes. The rack is kind of interesting. So it's like a 2-label process. And then there's a metric of these 2, and that's how you get your rack code. So it's not as simple as one would think. But the 2 things I look for when determining the rack code is 1, severity, and 2, subcategory. So severity, catastrophic. Yeah, that sounds pretty bad. Defined as can cause death, major issues, or major loss of readiness. Critical, next step down. Marginal, next step down. Negligible, we should probably fix it. So again, Roman numerals, catastrophic number 1, negligible number 4. and that's for severity. So after severity, you also got your subcategory for probability. So how likely? So for example, catastrophic, it's a 1. But if that's unlikely, so we'd call that a Roman numeral 1 delta. Yeah, if this thing blows up, it'd be really, really bad for us, but it's highly unlikely. Still a big deal, but highly unlikely. So you got your A, B, C, D. So alpha, likely to occur in the immediate, so this thing's going to blow up today. B, probably will happen. C, yeah, it might happen. D, unlikely to occur. And then there's a metric down here that kind of crosswalks the two. So you got your probability up here, severity down here. So if it's a 1A, that's an oh no. 1B, still an oh no. 1C, 2. 1D, 3. And then I don't think I'm going to remember this metric. I think it's more important to remember the A, B, C, D and the Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's a metric, so a 4D is the least important, a 1A is the most important. One thing to note that the rack is expressed in a single Arabic number. I've seen people get really confused on what an Arabic number is, especially like when I touch the correspondence manual a little bit later. I know I've tested with people that have asked me like, hey man, what is an Arabic number? An Arabic number is just a normal number. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So whenever you see Arabic number, just think it's a number. And then the rack codes, it also defines like what the 5 different ones are. So again, you get your rack code from a combination of the severity and the probability. And that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Arabic numbers. So number 1, critical safety or health deficiency, correct as soon as possible. And the definition for that is what you would imagine from anything called critical safety or health deficiency. Number 2, serious suspension of equipment is required. 3, moderate safety or health deficiency, waiver of equipment or system or space is granted pending correction of the item. So yeah, we could get a waiver for it working, but probably shouldn't use it. Number 4, this is a category or minor safety or health deficiency. Should be corrected when resources become available. But the use of the equipment is unrestricted. Number 5, negligible safety or health deficiency. Identifies anything known as record purposes. Then we got a little section here on, that's section B, that's not part of it. So interim controls. As soon as you can, establish and document appropriate interim controls. So document whatever you did. So for example, physical barriers, did we rope the area off, written instruction, word passed over the 1MC, warning signs, whatever is up, like, hey man, don't go near this. The safety officer must approve interim safety hazard controls if in effect for more than 60 days. So if you just have a hallway roped off for like a day or two, probably don't need to get approval from the safety office or safety officer. But if it's like, hey man, for the next 3 months, no one can enter this berthing, that's probably important for the safety officer to report. And then the safety or the CO needs to be notified if any unabated, so unabated just means not corrected, deficiency is classified as critical or serious, so rack 1 or 2, and they will determine who will personally approve interim protective measures. So department head must approve interim controls for other unabated deficiencies. So anything rack 1, 2, which if you remember from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 and 2 is someone could die from this and probably will. So in general, when someone can die for something and probably will, that's stuff the CO needs to know. The lower 3, 4, and 5 is something that can be approved by the appropriate department head. So whoever's in charge of the space, whoever's in charge of that area, like, let them run their house. But all right, so simple video as promised, A4. Again, the big things is that I'm just going to kind of scroll down on what I think is probably important to remember when I have time that I'm going to go back and study. I think the big ones for me are really timelines. So 10 days to report. The Opnav instruction form. CO's got to respond within 10 days. What is the catastrophic to negligible? 1, 2, 3, 4 in Roman numerals. Subcategory A, B, C, D. A is the worst, D not so bad. The RAC is a combination of the two. RAC code 1, critical, correct as soon as possible. RAC code 5, negligible, safety or health deficiency. 2 through 4, somewhere in between. And again, the safety officer must remove any interim safety control hazard if in effect for more than 60 days. All right, that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your MLK weekend. I'll probably do one more video throughout the rest of the 96. Not sure yet, but we will find out. Please join my Discord channel. I'll put a link for it in the video. Discord links only stay active for a little bit, so I'll probably just post the link in there. And if anyone wants to follow me, just let me know. Subscribe if you want. That's how you get notification of the videos. But honestly, my goal is 3 to 5 times a week. Starting tomorrow, I'm going back to college. So probably next week, my goal is only going to be 2 to 3 videos a week. But we'll find out what's going on from there. If you guys have any feedback, any questions, please post it up, and I will happily respond. Thank you to my 31 subscribers. Appreciate it. Hopefully these videos have been helping you guys. All right, have a great rest of your weekend.